Hello! Today we are looking at the Cambridge IGCSE music listening paper. We're diving right into section B and we're looking at African music once more. Now I say once more because I have previously made a video on African music, link in the description below, so you can go ahead and watch that video for the structure specifically of the music listening paper as well as section B1 and B2. We're diving into a section B1 today from November 2020, paper 1-3. You can find all these resources at the Cambridge School Support Hub, and yet again, link in the description below. So we're going to hop right into our questions, we're going to listen to our extract, and then we are going to answer our questions. Before we dive into that, a big shout out to all the people on the African continent, as you can see. My favorite continent. So a big hello to the Southern African viewers, Sub-Saharan African viewers, West African viewers, East African viewers, and of course, last but not least, North African viewers. So let's have a look at our questions. The very first question is question 10 in this paper as a whole. We are looking at the first subsection under section B. Okay, so in music B1 or section B1, they do tell us you will hear an extract for a piece for voice and instruments. So we know what we're about to hear, a voice as well as instruments. Then they ask us, name the first instrument. Then we need to name the second instrument that we hear. Then how is the sound produced on the second instrument? Okay, so are we blowing, are we plucking, etc. Which of the following best describes the melodic shape of the first phrase sung by the voice? So we first have to describe if it begins with an ascending or descending interval, and then whether it moves by leaps or steps. Finally, we're asked, from where does this music come? And of course, we're dealing with African music today. And there are 54 countries in Africa as a whole, so we're not going to be asked to directly identify the specific country. We can just say Africa. And depending on which instruments we do here, we can maybe specify a certain region, if we can do so. But otherwise, Africa is good enough. And then apart from the instruments used, we need to give a reason for why we named this extract as an African extract. Okay, so let's dive into our listening and then we can answer these questions.
Now listen to music B1 and answer the questions.
Okay, so a very beautiful African extract there. I'm kind of getting sub-Saharan Africa vibes here, so I'm thinking Mali or Nigeria. But anyway, let's just go ahead and answer these questions. So I'm going to start with, from where does this music come? Of course it is Africa. And I do think that Cambridge will give you your mark here if you name one of these sub-Saharan African countries, because you won't be wrong. But just to be safe, we can go ahead and say this music is of African tradition. Then apart from the instruments used, we need to give a reason for our answer. Now, of course, we can't speak about instruments because we're about to speak about instruments in the very first questions of this subsection. So, with no instruments in mind, how can we justify that this is definitely an African extract? Definitely the use of repetition, the use of ostinato, so repetitive rhythmic patterns, as well as the fact that the instruments enter one by one or that they start playing heterophonically afterwards. Any one of those reasons will give you your mark there. Okay, then we're hopping right to the beginning of the subsection. Name the first instrument. So we definitely do here an African type of xylophone, and that is called the balafon, something that looks like a howled marimba, so to speak, and we have the resonating gourds at the back to amplify the sound, and that is a balafon. Then the second instrument, we have a beautiful African harp, as they call it, and this is specifically the kora. Now the sound on this instrument is produced by plucking the strings, and if you didn't know that already, you can definitely hear it in the extract. So you definitely have to go ahead and say that the sound is produced by plucking the strings. So we'll listen to our extract just once more so we can answer our final question, which is, which of the following best describes the melodic shape of the first phrase sung by the voice? So we're going to hear our instrumental introduction, things entering one by one, and then when we hear the voice part, we need to make sure that we understand the first phrase and how it is melodically shaped. So let's jump in, let's listen there. I'll play the full extract because it is quite beautiful, and then we'll answer our last question.
Music B1, second playing.
So definitely that first melodic phrase there, sung by the voice, begins with an ascending interval and then it moves by step. So we have very minimal intervals moving on from there. Okay, so that wraps up our very African extract for this video. I hope that this has helped you and given you some insight into sub-Saharan African music. And do be sure to go ahead and listen to various countries' music in Africa, because of course they might have things in common. But like I said before, 54 countries, of course we're going to differ a lot along the way. So please be sure to go ahead and listen to as much African music as possible. Maybe start out with a country. For instance, if you want to listen to Nigerian music, do so. Listen to it a lot. Then maybe compare it with another type of African music style. For instance, go to my home country, South Africa. Then you can go ahead and listen to South African music and see the similarities and then very well the differences. I mean, geographically, we're very distanced, and then in the music as well. Yes, there may be some similarities, but definitely there will be differences. So see if you can do that, even if you just pick 1 or 2 or 3 African countries and then you listen to the music of that country, it will already do you well and put you a step ahead of everyone else at this stage of your music career. So all the best to you with your preparation for your Cambridge IGCSE music listening paper, and listen to African music.